Hello and welcome everyone a new episode of Money Means Business. Today, the core of this episode is going to tackle our ports and to what extent we are really doing our homework to develop our ports and to be in the middle of the very fierce competition in this very important field worldwide. Well, there are a lot of challenges facing the whole world. There is a lot of economic challenges, not only because of COVID-19, which did not end until the moment and which caused lockdowns and supply chain problems, crisis, food security problems, but with the war in Ukraine, Russia, the war or the brutal offensive of Israel on Gaza, the insecurity in the Red Sea. Well, let's have the impact of the challenges on the global economy. Let's talk about what we have achieved. And we're going also to take a quick look at the inspection tour of Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Al-Madbouli in Aswan today. Before we start, let's go in just a few minutes to know some of the most important economic events which took place in the past 7 days. And then we are going to turn back with my dear guest live here in the studio. So stay tuned. Welcome back. And before we start, let me first welcome my dear guest live here in the studio, Engineer Sherin and Naggar, our international shipping consultant. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
And let's start with this tour of Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli in Aswan today, which took him to a number of service and development projects in this wonderful city in Upper Egypt. And in one of his stops, it was the Creativity Digital Center, or Creativa, established by the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology and inaugurated by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi back in 2022, among 8 similar centers scattered all over Egypt. I said that I'm going to take this from here and to speak a little bit about IT and about digitalization, and regarding your specialty, digitalizing ports or digitalizing the maritime industry or the maritime services. I'd like to know more about that because this is a very interesting topic.
Well, digitalization is becoming more and more effective, more and more implemented in ports. To give you an example, the import and export flow of cargoes moving in and out of Egypt is digital now, partly, not completely. It's being slowly coming in. Of course, there has been some teething problems, but these have been overcome. And the advantage there was that it was very effective in preventing substandard cargoes being imported by error, which means that you do not pay for a cargo and then this cargo is rejected in Egypt, and then you have to wait for your money to be refunded, or you have none of that is happening now. It is first the approvals and everything, the sampling, everything is done electronically, and then you can import your cargo, and the cargo is sound. It goes in. So people, especially on food products, people will not eat rubbish. They will eat decent food. That is the most effective part. And there's a lot of other activities also. This is called the window, or nafiza in Arabic.
Yeah.
Which really controls a lot of the flows of cargoes. It also controls the movement of ships. You cannot bring in a ship and sit there, wait to discharge your cargo, and because you don't have the information. No, the information has to be forthcoming 48 hours before the ship turns up, and everything is set and ready. So when the ship comes alongside, she goes in, she discharges, and off she goes. And you don't have maritime congestion, you don't have berth congestion.
But this needs a lot of, this needs developed infrastructure, because without developed infrastructure, I don't think that we are going to be able to do so. And this is not an easy job.
Well, port infrastructure has been developing quite rapidly. The infrastructure itself has been developing quite rapidly. However, we have a lot of new ports, we have a lot of new berths, we have a lot of new people coming in, a lot of operators from foreign bodies. Some shipping lines are coming in to assume their own terminal operations and so on. The whole thing is that port development is a big job. It's nothing small, and you cannot develop a port without developing the inland or the hinterland infrastructure overall. What's the point in having a fantastic port that has no rail connection, that has no road connection, that has no backup hinterland which you can use to store the cargoes, that does not have equipment or facilities that can handle the cargo efficiently and quickly and without damage, which is very important.
And of course, the human cadres, the qualified cadres to deal with all of this. By the way, Prime Minister Madbouli was keen today to tour the advanced IT laboratories in this Creativa. And I'm going to take this as only an example, because many people thought that digitalization, meaning that we are going to minimize the human element, or just to take into consideration that this is everything is going to be automized. There is a great difference between automation and digitalization, if you agree with me on that, and if you want to elaborate too.
I would agree there. Yes, there's a difference between automation and digitalization. And digitalization is of course, a lot of people will say this is going to create a lot of unemployment and so on, but it is not unemployment. Over the past decades, we have been pumping people into jobs, into posts, and the result was concealed unemployment. One job that can be done by one person there is about 4 or 5 or 6 or maybe even 10 people assigned to do the same job. And that is why you see, even if sometimes they take the Mickey out of this in films and TV programs. So go to Ustaza Madiha, this and so on. You know, this is what I'm saying, concealed unemployment. Digitalization will eliminate that. Slowly but surely it will eliminate that. It's not going to come overnight because we are talking about decades of erroneous management. So that is now being corrected.
Great. And this is part of the state's agenda, Egypt 2030.
That is very true. And I can tell you the private sector is also involved in digitalizing port services and port maneuvers and Suez Canal transit operations and so on for its own benefit. But once
this was my coming question, sir, regarding the role of the private sector, because in many occasions, and even today in the press conference of the Prime Minister, he renewed the state's efforts to encourage the private sector and to consider the private sector as the strategic partner for developing Egypt or for reaching or achieving on the ground the sustainable development goal. Would you please, I'd like to elaborate on the private sector role in the ports segment as one of the leaps we should witness regarding our economic development?
Fine. Well, ports generally are run partly privately, partly publicly. In our particular case as a country, we are in a very special status. You know, a port is a border. And our borders are not exactly the most peaceful of borders these days. There's a political situation is volatile, south, west, east, everywhere. So in that context, as a person, as an Egyptian, I would say, no, we should definitely have full government control of ports because this is our national security. This comes number one. But on the other hand, national security is one thing, and national security can be enhanced tremendously by having a proper and efficient private sector operation and private sector digitalization that will back up this national security in such a way that we say, all right, fine, if a ship is coming to do this and this and that and the other, okay, it's been cleared security-wise, then the private sector would take care of the rest of the operation. Cargo handling, for example, cargo storage,
maintenance, logistics.
Maintenance, cargo logistics, how to store the cargo, distribution, transshipment. There is a lot of this is a science in itself. And it is a science that you do not learn from books. It's a science that you learn by being involved by practice. It is not it's not something, okay, there's a few points here and there written in books, but you can read 100 books on logistics and still know nothing. You need to be on the ground. Logistics or shipping generally is practice. It is not academic.
How do you see the developments in this field, sir? Because as you've kindly mentioned, now shipping is a science. And to implement what you've learned on the ground, this is the core of the whole story. What are the most important developments we have been witnessing recently?
Well, we have witnessed a lot of building of new ports. And let me tell you, even if you build up a small jetty in a port somewhere remote, it is still an achievement. It is an asset that stays. It belongs to the country. It belongs to Egypt. It belongs to your children, to my grandchildren. So what I'm trying to say, no, we should build ports. Yes, I encourage ports, yes. But we have two issues here.
Yeah.
The first issue is, if we build port, we need to know why we are building this port. I mean, we cannot go out and build a port in somewhere in the desert and expect to develop it very quickly and run containers. Why? Because if you put a container terminal there, there won't be any containers coming there. I'm just giving you an example because there is no industry, there is no civilization behind that place, or it is a Bedouin community. So
first, why I'm building this port here, I mean the location also?
Location is number one.
Okay.
Number two, connectivity is very important. Not hinterland connectivity or inland connectivity only, but international connectivity. I mean, if for example, take a port like Damietta. Damietta is in 40 miles west of the Suez Canal. It is in close proximity of the major traffic lanes using the Suez Canal between north and south and between east and west. So by having a maritime hub there, by container hub there, it is very effective and very useful because it is in close proximity. Egypt is a big importing country, is a big, the cargo exchange is very big. So you can come in, any shipping line coming in into Damietta comes in with the cargo base for Egyptian international trade, and can also implement container transshipment, which is a science by itself. And Damietta has been very successful since 1990 doing this. Also, then they built port side, and then Eastport side. There are other ports in the middle or in the vicinity also. But that's at the proximity. Now, if we talk, this is one thing. But if we do not need to go out and build ports for no purpose. The ports need to be built up for purpose. And to be able to identify the purpose, you must have a master plan. A master plan for ports. For example, if I'm saying, all right, Alexandria is serving the western sector of Delta. Okay, Alexandria has always been the major port of Egypt.
Yep.
But it's serving the western part of Delta. Damietta has been built to serve the eastern port of Delta. What cargoes can this port handle? What cargoes can that port handle? Safaga, for example, is a key port in the Red Sea. But Safaga has got its own problems. There are certain aspects of the cargo movements within Safaga that conflict. All
then
these things.
You want the state, or you want to divide the strategy into two. Building new ports, it's great, but we should know how, why, and where. And number two, to have a priority of renovating the current ports.
It's not a question just renovating current ports or building new ports. The idea is to have a proper master plan. The master plan, the transport master plan, or the maritime structure, infrastructure master plan, should include the location of the port, the dimensions of the port, the cargoes to be handled in the port. And these, how to identify a port like this is immediately governed by what? By the land connectivity, by the rail connectivity, by the market connectivity. I mean, there's no point in me going and building a port up in, say, El Alamein, or and then in order to serve cargoes that go all the way down to Aswan, while I have Safaga next door.
Yep.
You see, we need. This is what a master plan talks about. It is a roadmap, basically,
yes.
to say, okay, fine, I want to build this port here to serve this part. I'm going to build this port here to serve this part. Why do you do this? Because by doing this, you are able to localize your ports in such a manner that you do not exhaust your infrastructure. I mean, using rail between Safaga and or between Sukhna and El Alamein or Burj Al Arab at the moment is a good thing. But if you overuse it, it's going to be ruined. Why you overuse it? Because you are not directing the ports correctly. You're not directing the cargoes correctly to the correct port, to the near proximity. The nearer the proximity you have, first of all, you use less fuel on transporting those cargoes, be it by rail or by truck.
And saving time.
You save time, and most important, you have invested billions on roads and rail.
Yep.
And if you overuse them or you exhaust them, you will not. They are not going to be taking their lifespan. The lifespan will be shortened.
Yep.
And then you will need to expand to rebuild them or renovate them or restructure them once again.
And this is going to cost a lot.
And it's going to cost 10 times more than what it costs already.
Amen.
Because prices are always going up. So this is the problem we have. We need to identify a proper master plan, and we need to identify every zone. The master plan includes zoning the country, and every port or ports should be serving a certain zone of the country. We have inter-zone connectivity being between roads and rail. And how to harmonize this also inland container depots, or are they rail linked, or are they road linked, or are they both? All this need to be very carefully identified. Another thing which we are not using very much is the River Nile. The River Nile can solve a lot of problems for transport and can solve a lot of problems of the current
maintaining the environmental aspect.
That is one thing. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Look at the congestion of passengers going in the morning. When you go in the morning in a city like Damietta or a city like even Cairo, you can see people. It's crowded everywhere. It's like doomsday. But if you have them flying on the Nile bus that used to be running, if that develops and develops nicely and develops efficiently, you will be saving a lot.
This is something which should be approved by the Ministry of Environment, because when it comes to the River Nile, there is a lot to talk about, and to keep it clean and to keep our environment according to the international standards. This is very important. But sir, all what you've kindly mentioned, for me, it's a role model, of course. Let me talk a little bit about countries which implement that on the ground and in which we can exchange expertise with.
There are many countries.
Like?
The pioneers of transport logistics and transport infrastructure are the Germans. They are number one. And second comes the British. They are equally good. And
what about China?
China is copying the German and the British and the Scandinavian models. Although Scandinavia is a bit of it's a small look. I mean, the whole of Scandinavian population is not even the population of Cairo. So you know, it's very small scale. But the scale in Germany, in Britain, and also France and Italy, although they are not as efficient and not as advanced as Britain and Germany. That is for sure. So the Chinese are copying this, and you know, the Japanese have also, after World War II, have copied a lot of things, and now they're going
copying, sir, or implementing them according to their own circumstances and environment. Because there is a difference between this and that. To copy something may be something which is not suitable for me, so it's going to be in vain. But just to learn from what they have done, I mean, to start from where they end, this is another story. Copying or learning from?
Well, it always starts by copying. There is a certain vague area I don't know anything about. And I can see somebody doing something good there. Okay, fine, I'll do exactly what he's doing. And then, oh, wait a minute now. Now having gained experience, oh, no, I think I should do this in that particular way better, or I should deviate that, or I should implement this fashion instead of that fashion. You know, then that is how it comes. And this is exactly what happened with the Japanese after World War II. I mean, Japan after World War II was just ruins. And then they started copying in models from the Europeans and from the Americans, and it became Japan again. Japan was, before World War II, was also a major power. The same as the Chinese. The Chinese are much bigger, and they were much poorer generally. As a
Which
very
case
big country.
is similar to us. I mean, if I want to have a role model, or if I want to copy, as you've kindly mentioned, the experience of one of those countries to be implemented here in Egypt, and with our wonderful location, we are going to gain a lot. Which, in your opinion? Is it the German, the British experience, the Italian, the Spanish, the Chinese? Which is which?
The Egyptian.
Great.
And,
I like the answer.
The Egyptian, and I stand by that for a very simple reason, is that Egypt stands to become the world's biggest maritime hub. You have the Suez Canal. You have various ports which are coming all over the place. The Egyptian model needs to be polished. In other words, it is like a big valuable stone. It's a big piece of diamond that is under mud. And to do that, what we need to do is very important. Implementation of training, education is very important. It is useless for me to bring somebody from some place and put him into an Egyptian port and tell him to run a port without giving him any training. To give you an example, and that's maritime sector specifically, a certain officer in the Royal Navy was commanding the Polaris division in the Royal Navy. Polaris missiles this man was simply, he had the card that he would stick into a machine and push the button, and away goes a missile that will probably demolish the whole world. He was that powerful. Having completed his service, he did a very good job in his service, and he wanted to, the government wanted to promote him. So they said, what would you like to? He said, I would like to go to shipping. Okay, fine. Like a good boy, you go to a certain transport academy, you learn what shipping is all about, and then you come out. And he was appointed to a supreme position in the British maritime sector. He just retired, and before the Queen died, she gave him a very big decoration for his achievement on the commercial shipping. And that's exactly what I mean. I mean, there is a lot of excellent capacities in this country. Are they officers, Navy officers? They can be officials, they can be university professors, they can be whatever they can. In order to be able to put somebody into a post and expect a positive outcome of him, train him,
They can be
educate him.
technicians. I do respect even our technicians, everyone who is working with his own hands.
Absolutely.
They can achieve miracles. But sir, I'm asking these questions because there's all the time a good start. A good start meaning that by the end of the tunnel, you are going to find some light. Where should we start from?
Where we should start from when it comes to Egyptian ports, as I said, Egypt has...
No, you said training. Then first training. Second?
Second, governing the whole structure of...
Having a roadmap.
having a roadmap, and that roadmap does not say that this port has to be doing this and this port has to be doing that. We need to know how those ports integrate rather than compete.
Okay.
The situation we have in Egypt today is that you have ports owned by the Navy, and they are very well run and they are very disciplined, but they are independent and completely isolated from the ports that are managed by the Ministry of Maritime Transport, which have their problems because they have been old ports and they have inherited all the corruption and they've inherited all the... Admittedly, a lot of cleaning up is taking place, but that is going to take time. And then you have...
But we started.
It started, of course.
Yeah.
And then you have the Suez Canal Economic Zone, which controls another set of ports. Now, if you look at it from the outside, from the outside world, I'm coming in
From
with
a
my ship.
panoramic view.
Well, call it a panoramic view.
Yeah.
I'm coming in with a ship. I'm coming into Egypt with one ship. I'm going, let's say, into a port like Port Taufik. I'm discharging a cargo into Port Taufik. Okay, I have to pay X amount for the port dues and port expenses and so on. And then suddenly, another cargo pops up for me in the port of Adabiya. Port of Adabiya and Port Taufik, they're less than 2 miles away from each other. And then I go to Adabiya and say, oh, wait a minute, no, I want to Adabiya. No, but that's a new port call. You have to pay all the expenses once more. Why? Oh, because we are the Suez Canal Economic Zone. We are not the Ministry of Transport.
Yeah, okay.
And you see, this kind of thing. And to add this to this, okay, fine, that might be a bit of an odd example, but in the same basin, there is also a petroleum port called Zaytiya. And all these three ports, each of them is run separately, each of them run independently. And if you have a ship coming to that, you also have the Suez Canal traffic passing through this port, and the Suez Canal traffic gets priority, and then it is not well organized.
So coordination among different concerned bodies.
No, not coordination. These ports have got to be under the one body, the one holding company. That one body will govern everything. You want to manage it by the Navy, by all means do so. You want to manage it by the Maritime Transport Company, by the Ministry, do so. But it has to be understood that they all follow the same law, they all follow the same tariff, they all follow the same customs. I mean, you don't go into, for example, a port like Port Taufik. It says you have to pay extra for cleaning the port. Yes, but I'm paying port dues. I'm paying this. Oh no, but this is not. This is the custom of the port. There is no such thing. Okay, there is a custom of the port everywhere in the world because every port has got its special character. But you must be able to know exactly how far you can stretch your limits in order to stop, not to stop the business, in order not to fail. And we have certain ports that have failed because of that, and they picked up a very bad reputation. Reputation is the most important aspect in shipping. To give you an example, I mean, that is, again, it's maritime, it may be slightly maritime related. Alexandria Shipyard. Alexandria Shipyard was a disaster for decades until the Navy took over. And I can guarantee you, I have worked in Alexandria Shipyard before the Navy took over, and I've seen all the disasters there. And after the Navy took over and cleaned it up. If you go to a shipyard like Harland and Wolff or Bremer and Vulcan or whatever in Germany and come to Alexandria, there is no difference. The only difference is that those people are speaking German and those are speaking Arabic.
Okay.
The spick and span, everything is done by the book. So doing it, yes, we can do it. But we need to be put into a system. We need to alter our system. Our regulations need to be universal. And I say, okay, fine. This is the Navy, yes, but this Navy is in Egypt. And they are following the Egyptian law. So the commercial law that governs one port should be the commercial law that governs all
ports. Yeah. Sir, since you mentioned or said the word universal, unfortunately, the whole world now is suffering. And the whole world now is facing many economic challenges. In my humble opinion, it's the domino effect with what's going on in Gaza, then what's going on in Syria, then what's going on in Yemen, and with the insecurity in the Red Sea. The whole world now is suffering from that. And unfortunately, the United States carried out fresh strikes against Yemen Houthis. As they said, it's a self-defense issue or self-defense move, self-defense step. This means that the oil prices are soaring. This means that the whole world is expecting more inflation, more interest rate hikes, more crises, whether in food security or in supply chain. This means, or this is time to know how much the security of such navigation routes is important, or how much important the industry of shipping is important.
The chaos in the Red Sea, the southern Red Sea, is affecting everybody. Affecting us in Egypt, affecting Europe, especially it is affecting the supply chain to the European industry. European industry depends on the concept of just-in-time.
Yeah.
Just-in-time means that if I have a container with such raw materials, industrial components, it goes from the ship straight to the production line. There is no such thing as storage, because storage means idle capital. And this has been going on for a while. Now, in the Suez Canal is on the dot. I mean, the Suez Canal over the last development, they have saved the world 11 hours, 12 hours of waiting for the canal transit. And with the future projects, they will be saving the world even another maybe 5 or 6 hours. The way things are being handled in the Suez Canal, which makes me as an Egyptian very proud, actually.
Yeah.
The crisis in the Red Sea is starting to affect everybody.
Yeah.
Now, China, to give you an example, some German factory, it has been announced only the day before yesterday, that German factory, because of lack of components coming from the Far East, they have shut down. And it's 13,000 workforce. And in Germany, count the losses. Now, in the next, if this does not show properly, or does not, this Houthi problem does not find a solution one way or the other, and traffic goes back to normal, it means that you are going to be going for another 17 days steaming. Now, those big container ships, they cost something like maybe $150,000, $200,000 a day in operating costs. Now, add 17 days and then count your millions.
Yeah.
This is not going to be burdened only on the shipping lines. It will be passed on to the industry, to the trade.
Yeah.
And the trade is going to suffer. Prices are going to go up. That's one thing. The other thing, the disturbance of the interruption of the supply chain as a result of this sudden attacks and the deviation of ships from the Red Sea around the Cape is causing havoc everywhere. So again, we need to be very careful. Also, what not many people know about is that there is what you call the Joint War Committee. And the Joint War Committee is an insurance guideline that will tell the insurance companies being on the Holland machinery or the protection and indemnity clubs, no, you have to hike your insurance. You have to go higher, and they will set limits. And obviously, insurance companies are very scared because if a ship is passing by and suddenly, by accident, some guy.
Which countries are going to be affected more? I mean, is it Europe in the first place?
Europe, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan.
You mean, I know, but I mean, in the first place, I mean, who comes first? Because who comes first is going to act or to react to save themselves from the coming chaotic situation.
Who comes first is both Egypt, because the traffic, there's no traffic, or traffic is reduced, and of course Europe. Europe is going to suffer more because you're talking about industry, you're talking about overheads, you're talking about people who are going to be sitting idle, factories that have got bank loans to pay, they've got expenses, they've got this and that and the other, and they have no product, they have no commodities, they have no raw materials to come up with the...
No components.
Exactly.
Then no production.
Then no production, simple. But what is worse is that when the situation gets reversed, there's going to be a lot of production in Europe and nothing to move it back to the Far East or to the market.
Okay.
So you are talking about both ways. It is, as you said, a domino effect. It starts by the Red Sea, by the people, the countries that are around the Red Sea vicinity, and then it goes on to Europe, and then it will eventually bounce back either to America or to the Far East again.
Can we say it that clear that we are, I mean, we, the whole world, is racing against time to end this crisis, or the chaotic results or the terrible consequences are going to be even more horrible?
Definitely, definitely. The world should race to stop this nonsense from continuing to go on, because it is affecting everybody. And the irony is that it is this group that is doing this, the Houthis, they have no public status, no legal status, no recognition from anybody in the world. So
here, by the way, I didn't want to go into the political issues or who is in control of what. I wanted just to make sure that everyone is aware that what's going on is hurting everybody.
definitely.
It's not hurt, it's not even directed to a certain people. It's directed to the whole world.
Yes.
As you've kindly mentioned, it's the supply chain, it's the component, it's the production, it's the food, it's the oil, everything.
Definitely.
I cannot miss a thing of what I've said, if you agree with me.
Definitely, definitely. It is chaos. It is chaos, and there has to be an end to this chaos, and very quickly. Otherwise, it's going to turn very ugly.
The international shipping companies, the mega ones, how they do react in such situations? For me, this was a question which I didn't know how to answer. I mean, I am only a shipping mega company. I have nothing to do with the Houthis even, or with the violence in the Middle East. How they can manage the situation, or nothing can put an end to this?
Well, it depends which mega lines you're talking about. The mega lines that have got connections with Israel or not. Because the Houthis have announced plainly, we are targeting ships that are related to Israel. So they started anything that's allied with an alliance with Israeli companies or owned by Israelis, they start to fire. But now the Americans have started to bombard. Okay, we're going to target everything that's American. And if the British hit them, they're going to say, oh, we're going to start targeting everything that's British. This is no good. Mega carriers they bleed more than anybody else. You're talking about a cargo. Look at a ship that is carrying 20,000 containers, 25,000 containers. You realize how much money there is on board that ship.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We are running out of time, and unfortunately, again, we cannot separate politics from economy. But it's us, it's the peoples of the world who are really suffering.
That is right. Yes.
Yeah.
But suffering because of the senseless politicians, basically.
And those who really lost humanity, any sense of humanity, until the moment, and as we speak, 25,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, were martyred, fell martyrs. And There are thousands under the rubble, under the debris, and we don't count anymore. Well, anyways, we hope that this is going to have an end that soon, and we return back to normality, just being or living in a peaceful atmosphere. This is all what we want. Well, Engineer Sherin Naggar, our international shipping consultant, thank you very much for your input, sir, and it's always a pleasure to have you in our episodes, and we are going to leave you with a promise to see you again in more episodes of Money Means Business.
It's a pleasure for me always to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And let's end with some optimistic piece of news. A mine of gold. A mine of gold was discovered recently in the desert of Egypt, and inshallah it's going to have its positive impact on the gold's prices, I hope so, and in the industry of precious metals in general. Let's live with this mine for a while, and by this we come to the end of Money Means Business for tonight. Stay tuned on Nile TV International always for more, and with all my love, this was Nirmeen Abdurrahman.